It's been a bit of an unproductive week for me this week, which normally isn't that much of a problem, but at the end of the week, today, I need to record a video for you guys with interesting content, and if it's an unproductive week, it's pretty hard to make that an interesting video. This week was just crazy. On Tuesday I just had a bad day, an off day, very little energy. Everything I tried just didn't work. I couldn't get into it, so pretty much a failed day. On Wednesday I did do a bunch of stuff, but on Thursday we had a national holiday, but also my wedding anniversary. So on Thursday not a lot of work got done. And Friday, it's now Friday, I have to record this video. So all the stuff I did this week is based on what I did on Wednesday, which was productive, and part of Monday, which was partly productive, which it's gonna make for an interesting video, I guess. I have no idea. I can talk about a couple of things, but not a lot of productive things. I can show you. This. The Switch. And more importantly, what's on this Switch. Let me just boot it up and show you. That's right. I'll talk about it after the intro. It's... Hey, I'm Pascal from Orangepixel, and let's start this video properly. Residual is the game I have been working on for, well, since March 2020, I guess, around that time. The previous game I've been working on got a lot of new subscribers. Welcome. I'm currently working on a new prototype, but Residual is the game I finished work on about a month ago, and it's now also running on Switch. But a lot of people have been asking me how the launch went and where they can find the game. So there's some confusion there, and I wanted to make some stuff clear. Residual, it's done. Code-wise, it's done, sort of. But we'll be releasing it on PC, Switch, Xbox, and hopefully PlayStation. I'll get to that in a minute. So there's still a huge amount of stuff that needs to be done, and I wanted to explain a little bit what we've been doing behind the scenes, because there's so many questions around this, and a lot of other game developers or indie developers have no idea what goes into releasing on a bunch of consoles and PC at once. So maybe it's a great idea and a great time to talk about those things. So a little over a month ago, I completed the game, announced that on this channel, and we also released a announcement trailer also on this channel. I should be showing it you here, I guess, by now. This is a great trailer showing you the game, but it wasn't a release trailer. It's just an announcement, and it was part of the whole Apogee, who is the publisher of this game, their whole revealing and announcement of being back in the publishing business after a few decades. So Residual is gonna be one of the first new titles from Apogee. No stress there at all. And that means we're gonna release it on PC, Xbox, Switch, and hopefully PlayStation. And that just takes a lot of work. And all that work means mostly waiting for other people. I've still been tinkering with the game code here and there because, well, I don't have a lot of other stuff to do, and every now and then I need to tweak some stuff, and why not add little tiny extra details. But most of my work is done on the game. Friedel, Serious Lion on the Discord, is porting my game to mono game code, and that will run on Xbox, Switch, and PlayStation. That takes a couple of weeks. He's on it right now, and as you can see, it runs on the Switch already. But it's far from done. There are a bunch of tiny rendering bugs and little issues, and some of the text isn't really fitting on screen, some of the lighting isn't working. So we're working, or he is working very hard on all those type of things. But once that's done, hopefully end of May, we still have to get it through all the checks at console manufacturers, and that's where all the fun starts. And with fun, I mean no fun. So the thing with console manufacturers or the console companies, and the three big ones, they're, how can I put this nicely without getting into problems? They're a bit old structured companies. I think I can safely say that. They're just very slow in everything they do. Everything has to be done through certain channels, and it just takes up a lot of time. For example, on Switch, Friedel and I released about 6 or 7 of my Orangepixel games already. So we went through the hoops a couple of times now. Submitting your first release to Nintendo will take about 10 weeks for them to check it fully. If you're lucky, you never are, but if you're lucky, magically, it will pass through that whole check in one go. But usually they'll come back with a couple of things that need changes and tweaks, like they test very thoroughly with how controllers work and the hardware works. That's their main goal of testing, not so much bug testing, but more what if a user uses one Joy-Con, does the game still function? If so, you should mention it somewhere. If it doesn't, then you should make sure it mentions somewhere that it doesn't. All those little things, they want to make their hardware shine, and that's most of the stuff they test. So once that testing is done, you'll be able to set up a store page, but you can't release within the first couple of weeks after testing or after approving the test. So that's already a month of testing, or at least you can't release within that first month. Then you need to set up a store page, and you can't release that within 30 days of setting it up. So as you can imagine, we're already 2 months further down the road just to have it all set up and ready to go. Even though a store page could just be done in like a day, you're pretty much wasting 30 days on it. It's silly, but every console manufacturer has things like this. For Xbox, you first need to submit a game information file, which talks about what your game is, what it does, and how it makes the Xbox shine and all that stuff. And usually most games don't really do anything special for any of the consoles, because as a developer, you try to release on all the consoles at once, and just focusing on one console isn't doable. So these are just a lot of hoops that you have to jump through without any purpose. But they'll approve that game information file based on trailers, screenshots, and description. Then you get a game code, or you can at least create a game code. Then you can test for the game with that in a sandbox on the developer kit. Then you have to submit that, they have to test it, and you're pretty much in the same flow as with Nintendo. It all takes a lot of time. But the good thing about the Xbox and the Switch, we have dev kits for it. Which brings me to PlayStation. And for PlayStation, I'm sitting in my serious stock seat. We don't have developer kits. Still no developer kits, which is slightly stressing me out right now, because I have no idea how fast the whole process for PlayStation will be, getting it through testing, getting it set up for release. Yeah, it's slightly stressful, but I've been contacting Sony with almost every week now. I just need those developer kits. So Friedel needs a developer kit because he needs to check the code and needs to run it on a PlayStation. It's all set up on his end, but we don't know for sure until we actually get to try and test it. So that's been a bit of a frustration, but we're working on it as much as we can. It's mostly waiting for Sony, for the right people to do that thing that we need and send us developer kits. The other problem is that you can only get them shipped to your company's address, or at least in that same country. And of course, Friedel lives in Belgium, I live in the Netherlands. So I'll get the dev kits, and then we'll have to meet up somewhere on a shady parking lot or something and do a transfer of developer kits or something like that. I already see it as a very moody, weird scene. But we'll get him a couple of dev kits, PlayStation 4 and 5. And I can imagine the PlayStation 5 dev kit being hard to come by, because, well, there are some issues with PlayStation 5 being delivered everywhere in the world. But PlayStation 4 developer kits, it should be available, just not for us yet. Stressful. So it's gonna take a couple of months. We have a whole timeline, because besides all the console ports, we are doing trailers, we are doing looking at game shows and stuff like that. Most of that stuff is for the publisher side, so and that's why Residual isn't released yet. There's a huge amount of stuff happening, and of course that big box, we're filling it with items and things, and those also need assets to be created, and it's gonna be fun. Can't talk about all of it, but working on a bunch of those things as well. A lot of stuff happens before we actually release this game later this year. And while everybody is working on it, everybody else, I get to tinker with the new project. So let's talk about the new project. So like I said, there wasn't a very productive week, but I still managed to do some stuff like this. Right, there's a lot of blood happening, but I'll most likely dim it down before release, or at least make it optional to the player, because Residual was a very calm and relaxing game and I needed a different type of game. So there will be blood and violence and over the top and in a bit of a funny way, but still it's gonna happen. Besides blood, we also have a bunch more scenery and furniture going on inside the buildings, and this TV is actually animated, which is actually funny if you look at it. This is the intro animation to Residual, which very well done by Dylan, my intern, doing a lot of the pixel art you see on the screen right now. All the furniture is done by him. He is working on new walls and textures for the floors. Still very strange for me to have somebody else doing all that graphic work for my game, but also interesting how I get a lot of stuff done because of it. So yeah, very interesting, but a lot of fun. And of course, that does mean I need to keep the intern busy. So I gave Dylan a little task last week. It would be fun to have toilets with characters on it that are doing their thing on the toilet, like reading a book. So what we have here is this guy reading a little book on the toilet. It doesn't interact much just yet, but I figured it was a fun and interesting thing to add to the game. I also figured it would be great to keep Dylan occupied, but he did this in like 10 minutes. Awesome. Now I just have to come up with more fun stuff for him to do. And of course we have a bunch more cabinets. We go into the building over here. We have more TVs and a sofa, more cabinets. We're slowly getting there, but in a non-productive week, not a bunch of new stuff has been added. And that brings me to a little bit of a problem. So I usually try to prototype my games in about 4 to 5 weeks, and then I have to make a decision. Will I continue on this project? Is it fun? Is it heading in the right direction? Or is it just a failure and should we do something else? And we're now approaching the 4th, 5th week. It hasn't been full time. It hasn't been full weeks because a lot of residual stuff happening. So I do still have 1 or 2 weeks left for myself, and there's no pressure from anybody else. This is just me being my own business guy. 4 or 5 weeks, get it up and running, see if it's fun. If not, move on. And we're almost there, but a lot of the gameplay hasn't been figured out yet, which is a kind of a problem. So right now I have 2 options. Next week I'll try to figure out if this squad-based idea is actually viable. It's a lot of fun now moving around, shooting stuff, but we're just controlling the front runner and everybody else follows him. So we need to do something with that team. We can split them up already. That's the code I did the first time, the first couple of weeks. So that's there, but there's no function for it just yet. And I have some ideas for that, like positioning 2 of your members in front of one door, and then the other you control in front of the other. You breach that door, they will also breach their door automatically. Or when you enter an apartment, 2 of your guys stay behind to cover the hallway while the others move in. And then we'll have enemies spawn in that hallway as you breach, so that your 2 guys have something to do. And if you wouldn't leave them there as a tactical decision, you'll be in the middle of an apartment with a lot of people storming in from the hallway from your back. So I think there are a couple of ideas I have for this, and I want to work them out. But I also have a backup plan, which is very simple. Sorry, but the backup plan is ditching the squad idea. So you'll just control one guy, go into all these buildings and destroying everything. This is a backup plan. I haven't decided on that yet. I still want to try and create this squad-based game that's in real-time action, no turn-based, no pausing. It's going to be difficult, but I have some ideas to work on that. So that's my main focus. Still, I'll give myself 1 or 2 weeks. I don't have to figure out every enemy yet. I just need to figure out to have your squad members that you don't control be useful in some way. So it's going to be writing out a couple of situations and then try to create those in the game and see if it's fun and works. And everything else is up and running. We have these apartment buildings, we have stuff in it, we have enemies, so we can always create a single guy like a John Wick. I think somebody mentioned it somewhere. on Discord or on YouTube. A John Wick style game, just one guy shooting everything, maybe some Matrix style slow motion and bullet time and things like that. That's my backup plan. So the prototype isn't lost just yet. There are two directions. We're gonna try the difficult one, and if that fails or we don't get it up and running in like 1 or 2 weeks from now, we're gonna pivot to the backup plan and just create a fun shooter that's over the top with a main guy going into buildings, and maybe you'll be a bad guy destroying all the other bad guys, trying to be the big bad guy or something like that. Still a lot of fun directions to pick from that one. It's like a little bit of a tree. We now have the base of the tree, and we're gonna branch out and see which branch is the most interesting and gets the furthest. So I should probably end the video pretty soon and get back to work. Yeah. Alright, so let me just finish up this video with some comments. I think we still have some time left. The video isn't that long. Residual sounding better than ever. I can't wait to switch one day. Yeah, Stinger's voice acting in the game, it's so much extra sauce that I would never add myself because it's just very costly. But now having a publisher to help me with those things, it really elevates the game to a new level, and I really love it. Also, the old tile-based field of view reminds me of NetHack. Yeah, the field of view I showed last week's video, where you actually only see the tiles you see. That's very common in roguelike or top-down games. So it just doesn't fit this game, I guess. Maybe add a little fade-out effect when a room is breached. Fade out or fade in? Not sure. Oh, you mean the darkness fade out into... Yeah, but the breach and then bright room just gives a better punch, I think. But that's just a feeling and game feel, and it's all up for design and can all change. Right now it's just getting this prototype up and running as quickly as possible. Also, when you break a sofa, please add debris that slow down enemies and SWAT team too. Good idea, just that debris can also hit others and then hurt them and do damage. Interesting. Maybe you'll find something out if you watch that Spelunky procedural video here on you. I know how Spelunky works, and I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years, and that almost the same way or slightly different, and I've been improving it over time. But it just won't work for this game. So, by the way, I think the vertical door needs more emphasis visually. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff that just over time happens eventually. That's a lot of progress done. I'm amazed every time when these devlogs come out. Great fit. Yeah, last week was very productive, and this week was not. Monster Anti-Fern TV, Monster Anti-Fern Sofa. I would love to see those monsters. Yeah, I call every item in my game, or a lot of times I call them just monster entities and put them in the monster entity class, even if they're random items or furniture or static stuff. Eventually I will split it up if it becomes just too much junk in one class, but for now, prototyping stage, it just works very quickly, and I still think this is done pretty neat and clean, at least compared to some of my older code. The lighting looks so good, and the door and object storing effects are tight. The art, asset, and sprite are just adorable. Yeah, lots of credit to Dylan DMAC on the Discord. The intern is taking care of a lot of the furniture and stuff, and the enemies and things like that. He's doing a lot of artwork on this game. He's still with me for a couple of months. We'll have to see if he can stay longer after that. Not sure if he wants to, leaving it up to him. But doing a lot of cool stuff on the artwork. Really starting to feel like a game. I'd have so much fun playing this. Really looking forward to seeing some action, and I hope you get some. Well, it was my wedding anniversary this week, but moving on. That's very cool. I like hearing about your process with experimentation around the lighting and rendering. I think it looks like it could be a solid game. Why would you consider not fully developing this one? Like I just said earlier in the video, the whole idea for this game is a squad-based game, but I'm not sure I can actually make that work or make it fun enough. So if it simply doesn't work or doesn't get to a point where it's fun to play, then I'll abandon the prototype. Although in this case I have a backup plan, just one guy moving into the building and killing everything. So there is a backup for this prototype, but the idea I originally had is a squad-based game, but in real time, not turn-based, controlling a whole squad and having them interact with the enemies and the surroundings. And it's gonna be hard. I'm just not sure if I can make it fun. If it's not fun, there's no point in continuing development on it, pretty much. I'm so happy our little robot dude in Residual got a voice. The voice actor since my daughter loves Wheatley from Portal, planning to play Residual. Yeah, I think it's all safe to play it with your daughter. Yeah, it's all safe. Safe language used, a lot of fun. So enjoy the game when it's released. How does breaking a window make the outside light disappear? Alright, you're not the only one asking that. A bunch of people talked to me about it. And honestly, I have no idea. I just didn't think about it. I just figured it would be fun shooting a window, and then for some reason I figured that would remove the light, but of course it doesn't. So maybe I'll just create boarded up windows. You can shoot those and then light appears. Sometimes you just don't think things through, and this was one of those things. Love the squad animation. 23 minutes is a long video. Why don't you try splitting it into 2 clips? It would be very easy, but you can also just watch 10 minutes, pause it, and watch the other 13 minutes tomorrow. Fix it. That's it for this week's comments. Thanks for commenting on the videos. Make sure to comment on this video, like, subscribe, and all that stuff. And hopefully my coming week will be very productive. And next week's video will have a bunch of new stuff on the prototype. I'll see you there next Thursday, every Thursday. All right, that's it. Bye.
Aiming device for this resource back